So Stags, how are you enjoying your Origin period?
Mate, rep season's beautiful. Can't wait for City Country. Find out where the game's on. Get out, see bush. It's going to be great fun.
Got some bad news for you. Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Rugby League Outlaws. We're of course brought to you as always by our great mates at Top Sport and the Stubby Club. Just want to throw a big thanks to Stags who answered an SOS call. Terry will be joining us later, so make sure to stay tuned for that. A couple of things before we get into the Rugby League. Just want to take a moment to send a shout out to our good mate TM Baldwin. Mate, we're thinking of you. And we just want to take a moment to reference the Dylan Brown off-field stuff that we won't be discussing. We'll leave that to the talking heads. We've had enough. Now, I don't think anyone needs reminding, Segs. This Wednesday night, New South Wales were again beaten by an underdog Queensland side. Before I give my thoughts, and they will be plentiful, what were your quick thoughts on the game? And more specifically, Brad Fittlers.
It was a really interesting game to watch. One of the things that really stood out for me was how well both teams kind of nullified the opposition halves. So someone like Daly Cherry Evans, he got his 40-20 and that was about it. Cleary didn't have a lot of time and had a lot of pressure. You saw that in his kicking game. I think the Sixers in Luai and Munster were probably the better in both of their halves combos. Munster definitely came into his own in that last 10, 12 minutes or so. But yeah, it was a real kind of attritional type Origin game. I think it really had the effect of being played in Adelaide. The atmosphere wasn't there in the same way, and I think that actually played out in the game itself.
Very good point.
But as to your question about Freddie, game one in a 3-game series feels a little bit early for me to be throwing any judgments as to whether he's going to be there next year or not. Let's actually get through the rest of this series first. Could you make some interesting comments about his selection and the way he ran the team? Quite possibly. Will he learn from that? Well, we look at last year and the changes he made for game 2 and definitely adjusted some things there. He's not averse to making big changes. So I think a lot will hinge on what happens in the next couple of weeks, particularly now that Nathan Cleary's out.
Look, that's why we brought you on tonight, Stegs, for that calm head, because I agree largely with what you said, but if it were up to me, Brad Fittlers would have been gone at half-time the other night. His team selections were just way off. We didn't come out and say it because Terry and I play the state line. Look, I took Queensland, even when they were played down with 10 minutes to go, I said, oh, geez, how are they going to beat us this time? Then I saw Tom Trbojevic go down injured and I saw Nicho Hynes stood up and I said, well, there it is. Earlier in the game, I put a tweet out and said, this has Nicho Hynes going on for 12 minutes out of position and losing the game written all over it. 12th minute to the actual second, Nicho Hynes is thrown on at centre. Look, if you pick Hynes, you have to put him on at centre. There's no, you could have moved Cam Murray there, etc., but you had to put Hynes there. Going back to what you said, you could literally see Cam Munster lick his lips. Beautiful, got you. That right edge of Nicho Hynes and Cleary defending next to each other had "uh-oh" written all over it. First chance he got, he went there even with a player over Burnham. They ran down and score a try. He's put Nicho Hynes on with no plan. He came out and said during the week and after, the plan was to put him on at hooker for 20 minutes. You had a pretty good hooker in Damien Cook, who you could have thrown on for 20 minutes to give Api Coruscant a break. The other thought was he was there as a utility in case Tedesco went down or one of the wingers and you could shift. Okay, I don't like picking on that, but if you're going to do that, you pick Matt Burton. He's a bigger body, he can play centre, he can play wing. Nicho, with the greatest respect, my favourite player by a long way, can't do that thing. So if you're going to pick a utility, you pick Burton. So he's picked Nicho Hynes purely because last year he didn't pick Josh Adokar and he copped it for 3 games. And everyone said after the series, if you picked Adokar, you won. I think he's picked Hynes purely to avoid that backlash, and he had no plans of getting on because Nicho ran on cold at centre. No warm-up, no plan. He threw him out there. Exactly what he did with Sifa Talakai last year. Picked an informed player, put him on with no thoughts, absolutely burned him, killed Nicho's confidence. Now, it's great Nicho Hynes is Nicho Hynes. He came out and had a pretty good game against the Broncos. That loss absolutely wasn't up to him. I think he had 4 line break assists just off the top of my head. I think in game 2, going into the second point here, he has to make a decision. Either Hynes plays from the start or not at all. Yeah. What are your thoughts?
I think that's completely right. I think they probably wanted to reward Hynes for the way he's played over the last season and a half. The only problem is that he's not really that bench 14 option.
Absolutely not.
And given the way that Clearys played on the night, he deserved to play 80 minutes. I think he played really well, and
Very well.
that actually justified Fittlers' decision in only picking Clearys and not going with Cook.
I agree.
The difficulty is that if you're picking Hines, well, where are you going to play him? I would have thought, given that Hines was playing this bench role, that he would have had some time defending in the centres to get used to those combinations. He can't do a whole lot in the space of a week, but would have been able to work on something so that there was some communication and some gelling with that right-hand side and possibly the left-hand side too. But even then, I think the big thing of having to come on when Turbo goes off for the HIA, there's no time for warm-up. There's no time to get things ready. It's just kind of get on there and get it done. You're right, he kind of got sold up the river and going on then, but
Big time.
I'm sure if Fittler had gone to, say, Frizzell or Murray and gone to them instead of Hines, I think there would have been a whole uproar too.
Oh, we'd be blowing up about not putting Hines on. Absolutely.
Interesting fact, New South Wales only used 6 interchange.
Yeah, I saw that, and one of them was enforced late on. Now, you're 100% right. You had to put Nico at centre. If you're going to pick a player of that body type, you have to put him at centre. But it took him one set for Cam Munster to go, got you.
Yeah.
You can't give Cam Munster that kind of... I just think he's picked Nico and put him on there and thought, if one of my halves or my fullback goes down, I'm sweet. Because Latrell wasn't there, I think it was probably justified in the end because he did go on. Whereas if he named a fourth forward, you have Cam Murray at centre, which, probably Cam Munster again goes, delicious. But at least he would have been warm and picked with a plan and trained for a plan. I'm very negative on Brad Fittler for the pure fact that a couple of years ago, the State of Origin was played at the end of the season. And New South Wales played a team, and look, with the greatest respects to Queensland, you can never count them out. That team... It was laughable, let's be honest. It was a team with Branko Lee, Corey Allen, who was the 6th choice fullback after AJ Brimson went down injured, and Edric Lee in their back three. The corpse of Cam Munster, he went on a 3-week bender after winning the grand final. He only played because he absolutely have to. The bloke didn't blink for an hour and a half, and he went out there and tore us to shreds. This was a team that had Nathan Cleary, Clint Gutherson was at the centres, and Jack Whiten was the other centres. And you look at it and you think, okay, even with those blokes out of position, New South Wales should have won those games 40-10, 40-0 and 40-10. And we didn't. How he survived that, I don't know. Okay, I know he came back to win one. I know he came back to win one, so I absolutely get it. It was justified. But then to lose last year, which again was laughable, and it looks this year, we got to win in Brisbane. I don't like those chances. Now, if we go up there and get the win, we win the second one, the third one rather, I'm happy to eat crow. I'm happy to eat my words. I can't see a world in which that happens.
Yeah, look, the hill is very steep. And I think the fact that Fittler has 2 series wins under his belt in 19 and 21, and I think for a lot of people, the 20 series is kind of just a write-off because of the whole COVID origin after the end of the season, all that sort of stuff. Fittler works in a different way to how we've seen Origin coaches work before. And I think for the players, that's been quite refreshing. But then it's that whole thing of what do you gain, what do you lose? And I think for a lot of fans, they feel like there's an edge that isn't there at the moment. I'd probably say that that's not entirely true. But I think what we are seeing is this whole Queenslander thing again. I don't know how they do it. Actually, I think I do. New South Wales players, their highest honour, the thing that they want that Kangaroos jersey. Mm-hmm. Queenslanders, they want that maroon jersey. And I think that is a massive difference in how Origin is approached. It's still big for the New South Wales players, but it's not seen as the ultimate thing.
They wouldn't die for jersey. I absolutely agree. Sticking with Origin, then I promise we'll move on. Nathan Cleary's been ruled out for up to 6 weeks by Penrith. I've seen the skies falling. I've seen the end of the world, blah, blah, blah. I don't think it's that bad. Just putting you on the spot, who comes in for Cleary and does Luai fall out now?
I'll answer the first question first, because I think that's actually an important thing. I don't think Luai deserves to be dropped. Mm-hmm. I think his form, both last year and in game 1, is enough to keep him around. Because he stays there, don't actually think they go to Hines. I don't think those two together will necessarily be the right sort of combo. I'm going Adam Reynolds.
Adam Reynolds, yeah, well, it's plenty of big game experience. He's a grand final winner, a couple of origins under his skin, and he does play at Suncorp Stadium, which I think will have a huge bearing on the decision.
I hadn't necessarily thought about the Lang Park aspect of things, but old head, wise head, composure. You look at the way that he's been leading that Broncos team around over the last season and a half, and I think he's definitely got the ability to really be the field general that they're going to need to get stuff happening in game 2. And I think Luai will play off him really well with his ability to kind of run and create that way.
That's fair enough. And I've seen some people come out and say that if you bring Reynolds in, then you have to look at Cody Walker and reunite that South combo. Cody Walker's arguably the form half of the competition over the last 3 weeks. His try assists are so far ahead of the other big boys in the discussion. I don't mind that. I think if you lose Cleary, you have to keep Luai. You can't start again. Luai's been there, done that. And I actually, as you said, I actually thought he played pretty well the other night. I rated him an 8 and got absolutely raked over the coals. And on retrospect, probably about a 6.5, 7's more fair. But compared to Cleary, I think he was far and away the best of the New South Wales halves. I think Nico, look, you could put Nico in tomorrow and he's going to do his absolute best. But I mean, this is a game too. Nico Hines has, 12 minutes of bad origin under. He's had one run, one hit up, one knock on, and he let a try in. So I think you can go to Nico and say, hey, look, circumstance says we can't pick you this year, but I mean, next year you're first up. Whether that happens or not, it doesn't matter. You can't kill this kid's confidence, and it will be through no fault of his own. It's pure circumstance. If the game 2 is in Sydney, I'm picking Nico Hines. But the fact that it's in Brisbane, you have to go with a bloke who has 1,000 NRL games to his name in Adam Reynolds. I think he and Luai will do more of a good job. If they go Reynolds and Walker, I'm not going to scream the house down. I've seen people say Walker and Nico, you can't pick two new halves.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily go Walker and Nico as that combo either. If I was going to pick Nico, I'd actually probably put him at 6 and I'd put Adam Reynolds at 7, and I think that combo could work quite nicely. I think Matt Burton's still in that mix too, although he might end up taking that bench spot that Nico had in game 1. But
or even the centres.
Even in the centres, possibly, it depends on what happens there. But I think one of the things that keeps highlighting is that New South Wales have this great depth of players that we can have these conversations about who's going to play in different spots. And, to say that, someone like Pangai Jr., well, you could have picked 3 or 4 different players there who may have done a similar or possibly a better job. Yeah, it's a nice problem to have. The difficulty is trying to find the 17 that actually fit together.
You're exactly right, and which is exactly why I'm frustrated that we keep losing to Queensland.
You look at home in sunny Illawong today, and news has just filtered through that Newcastle Knights are sounding out Michael Maguire's reps to see if he's interested in joining Newcastle. Now, Maguire's down in Canberra assisting with Ricky Stewart and the Raiders at the moment, but look, obviously, full-time coaching gig comes up. You'd imagine that Madge would be interested in it, but I think it just goes to show the level of, or lack of coaches that are out there at the moment. When Maguire's name is popping up, there's got to be some good assistants out there. We've seen the Warriors having success with Webster, obviously the Sharks having some success with Craig Fitzgibbon. Jason Rolls are waiting for the right job as well. We're seeing these, these good coaches, young coaches coming through, and then you're getting the same recycled names going through, Shane Flanagan's, Michael Maguire's, etc. So I personally think it would be a terrible move for Newcastle to sign Michael Maguire. I think if Adam O'Brien's not the person that they want by the end of the year, then obviously you've got to move him on. But you've got to look elsewhere. You can't. You already went to the bottom of the barrel and got the wrong Roosters reserve grade coach. So you've got to try and find another coach out there now who's going to bring a little bit more, because obviously we've seen some of the Knights and the attitude of the players and the spectators. I don't think Michael Maguire and his tough love is going to be the right method for them. They want more the cruisy, laid back, results don't matter kind of coach. And I think it's not a match made in heaven for Michael Maguire, and it would be the last job that he ever takes.
Expansion. is back in the headlines.
Look, I'm trying to trim down.
Again.
Give me a break.
I think you're looking very good, mate.
Thanks,
but,
man.
Look, the NRL just has this obsession with getting bigger. I see why. Another game gets rid of the bye, etc., etc. PNG has been floated as the next team. I believe they're looking at 26, 27. So they've expedited it. They want it in now. What are your thoughts?
Well, I hadn't noticed that there'd been this more sudden push to get PNG. They'd been part of the conversation with a second New Zealand team or Adelaide or Perth or North Sydney trying to resurrect themselves in 27 different places.
Let it go.
But PNG, yeah, but no, but yeah, but no, but I really don't know. It's a great idea. We know how league mad they are up there.
100%.
But two things kind of play against it in my mind. The first one is that one of the benefits they're looking for with the expansion is the time zone spread, which probably leans towards another New Zealand team or going to Perth, less likely Adelaide. The other thing is, I don't know how they might be able to attract non-PNG players to go and play in PNG. Unless they base themselves in Cairns and played a couple of games in Port Moresby through the year or whatever, but in which case you're not actually a PNG team.
You're a Cairns side with away games.
Yeah.
100%.
So, look, I love the idea, and I think 18 teams, there's enough player depth across for it to work. I just don't know whether PNG is actually going to be the one that ticks the boxes as required.
I agree. Absolutely. They are league mad, and it does. I mean, those away games, or the home games over there, are going to be fantastic. You throw the PM's 13 over there, and it's a must-see game. It's fun and it's romantic, but I just don't think it'll work. Cam Munster will be at the end of his career. Do they offer him $1 million to go play in PNG? Look, I would, but why would he uproot his family and go over there for a year? And I know it's not probably being fair to them, but I mean, time zone. Perth is the time zone. You get your 9 o'clock kickoff game, which they would kill for on a Saturday night. I guarantee it. You push every game forward an hour or half hour, or you break the half hour between the 3 and the 5:30, whatever. And that's an evening game in Perth. That's right there. The reason you go to Perth. I love the PNG, the romance associated with it, but I just can't see a way it works. The one positive it does have, though, is and I go back to the Dolphins, I said on here that if they start 0-10, that's going to fail. Now, they've done exceptionally well. They've got some hard days ahead, but even if they don't win another game, they've far exceeded any expectations.
It's a successful first season.
Hugely so. And I mean, they've haven't got the big stars, but they're creating them in Hammer and Azarko, etc. It's been a huge success. I take back everything negative I said about it. PNG could go 0-20 in their first season. They're still going to sell out every game in Port Moresby for the next 5 years. Yeah. That is a plus. They've got a fan base there that's built in, and if they base in Cairns, you're going to get a lot of people that go with them. We're Hunters fans in the Queensland Cup because of the romance associated with it. It's awesome. When they won, it was incredible. You bring a PNG side in, built-in fan base. But again, who's going to go play for them? And it's a fantastic place, and that's an away trip that if the Sharks playing over there, I'm going. That is a trip I would love to go to. But who goes and plays for them? Yeah. Stegs.
Dan?
Let's talk about little brother, the St George Illawarra Dragons. Full disclosure, you are a fan of the club?
Yes.
Sorry to hear that, mate. It's been a rough week. What are your thoughts on everything? Let's throw it to you before I come back with my thoughts. It'll probably be more negative than yours, just quietly.
You never know.
Jason Riles, couldn't get him?
Now, it's not about Riles that groan goes out, but the possibility, as reported, that Riles said no because he wasn't allowed to nominate his backroom staff that he wanted to bring in. Now, I kind of understand why a little bit. The turnover of assistant coaches under Griffin has been fairly high. As much as I love Matty Elliott and he's a great guy, he was there for a year and then he's moved into the role that he has with the club now. And I think he's actually really well suited for that. Yep. But it does mean that there's been churn and turnover quite a lot.
Were they scapegoats for Griffin though? As an outsider, that's how I feel.
I really don't know. And No one's ever said anything, and I don't think Matty Elliott's going to come out and say anything.
Oh, absolutely, most loyal bloke in the world, no chance in the world.
And he's not going to go that way. If you're going to bring in a new coach, you're almost kind of tying one hand behind the back by saying, yeah, you're going to coach, but here are the guys that you're going to coach with. It is rather unusual, unless they've got some people who are really set up, ready to go. I don't think they've got that, but
fair.
So this is the situation where if you're going to get someone coming in, they're going to want to have their assistants around. They're going to be asking for people that they want to build around. So in regards to that, am I upset that Riles didn't say yes? Not specifically personally about him, but the situation around it gets me a little bit annoyed to a certain extent. So the question is, who's next?
Well, Dean Young's the name that has been thrown up.
Dean Young, Ben Hornby.
And fans don't seem happy about the Dean Young. I don't know what it is. It just, as soon as his name came up, there were petitions started to not go with him.
I think there's a little bit of leftover stuff from when he was the interim coach between McGregor and Griffin.
His father's there in decision
then
making,
there's
right?
Craig. Craig Young's not there anymore.
But was. Okay,
was.
it's probably a little bit to do with that.
Because there was the whole
Yeah.
letter and all that sort of stuff. But we don't need to talk about that right now. I wouldn't have a problem with Dean Young. I think he's had a good experience up in North Queensland with Todd Payton. I think he's definitely had that opportunity to learn. Ben Hornby's had a similar situation in going to Souths. I would have loved for them to have kept Demetrio when they had him in the first place, because he would have been the one that they could have built on. But
100%.
Yeah,
It's gone. He's South for life. Yep.
Yeah. So I wouldn't have a problem with either of Young or Hornby. The other name that's been floated around, and supposedly there's a lot of interest at the board level, except for a couple of people, is Shane Flanagan. Now, I know you've got more experience with him based on his time at Cronulla, and putting aside some of the non-field stuff, non-football stuff, Dragons need someone to bring a squad together. They don't necessarily need to rebuild a squad. There's some good young players there. There's some potential and all of that.
Great pieces.
Find a couple of pieces to bring it all together and get that cohesion. Do you think Flanagan can play that sort of role?
Purely football related, absolutely. He's your best. You could put him there tomorrow and the culture will shift, whether that's good or bad, because with Shane Flanagan comes negative headlines. It'll be his first job since he got removed from Cronulla, and we all know the reasons. Google his name, he could say something ridiculous tomorrow, and that's still going to be the first Google search.
Yeah.
So you can't really talk about Flanagan without the stuff. It's easy enough to say he's learned his lesson, but he learned his lesson, came back and got flicked again because he didn't learn his lesson. Now, I love Shane Flanagan because he gave us the best moment ever. He gave us the title. He built the best Cronulla side, I believe, that's ever been assembled. He set us up. I mean, he's responsible for Val Holmes and that group, Bird, etc. So all our best players coming through were Flanagan in some way, whether directly or indirectly. In terms of football, yeah, 100%. You could put Flanagan in charge. But he purely has to be, you run the team, everything else has to go to someone else.
Yeah.
Whether he'll come in and say, yeah, that's cool, I'm willing to do that. I think he'll have to, full disclosure, to get a job because no one else is going to hire him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you could do worse than Flanagan, but as soon as things go negative, Flanagan gets it's all going to come up again.
Yeah.
It's going to come up, and of course the Cronulla St George rivalry, I think that'll be good for him because he's a St George boy, evidently. He played for him, didn't he?
Maybe.
I'm pretty sure he was that was the first initial, he's a St George boy though. Doesn't really matter this day. Yeah, I would tend to look at Des Hazard or Jeff Tuvey and say, we need a hard ass. We need someone that can come in and say, oh, you shut up. Unless your name's Ben Hunt, you don't deserve to be here. And I would 100% back that. I don't know how the Dragons players will feel. I don't think it matters at this stage. I think you go, hey, you on board? They go, see you later. I think you need a complete gutting of anyone not named Ben Hunt. There's a few good players, don't get me wrong. I still think Lomax is a freak. You got some young wingers that I love the look of. And there's some real good players in there. But whether Flanagan's the right guy, yes, but no, but yes, going back to what you said earlier,
Yeah.
I think you put Des Hazard in for 2 years and say you've got 2 years, but only 2 years, you find a long-term replacement, you put him in after.
Yeah. I'm not going Hasler. Tuvey? Sure.
Thanks.
Dan?
It's time to talk some black, white and blue. Now you'll notice
I have to?
Well, you notice no fin on my friend's head here because he is a Dragons fan. So, which is good because I have a few questions to ask you, and please, the floor is yours. I'll interject where I feel necessary.
So every 2 minutes.
Every 2 minutes on the dot. Everyone watching knows my thoughts about the Sharks. Love them dearly, etc., but I also hate them, etc. From the outside, what are your thoughts of the current Cronulla team? Because I've seen things ranging from Cronulla should be leading the comp to we're flat track bullies and we'll finish outside the 8. Where do you sit?
They're probably about right where they are, is the short answer. You look at the side, the back line's still got all the strengths that it had last year. The forward pack's probably where the difficulty is at the moment. When you've got Oregon, Kafusi and Royce Hunt as your starting front rowers. They're good players, but they're probably bench players most other clubs. 100%. So that runs into a little bit of difficulty there. But I'd say, middle of the 8 is probably where they should be at the moment and probably will be at the end of the season.
Yeah, completely fair.
It's really interesting watching you and Terry talk about the Sharks, and as someone who doesn't really watch a lot of Sharks games, because the last time I did, they smashed the Dragons, and I don't want to talk about that anymore. So I went and watched the extended highlights of the Broncos game on Saturday night. It was interesting to watch. It definitely feels like Nico's team at the moment, but not necessarily in a good way. It's a little bit Ben Hunt and the Dragons, where if anything good happens, he's the one who's pulling all the strings. So if you think about 1, 6, 7, 9 for the Sharks, Kennedy is a decent fullback, but he's not necessarily the creative type. He's definitely a link player and then can do his own thing, but he's not necessarily, say, when Munster was playing fullback at Melbourne and able to kind of play as that extra playmaker.
Not a third halfback.
Hines is doing a great job. Brayley is a very solid, manageable hooker, not necessarily a major creative type. I think McInnes would be better there, but then again, I'd say McInnes would be better still at the Dragons, and I'm not bitter about that at all. Your problem at the moment, I think, is at 6. And I think it's just because Matt Moylan doesn't have any legs to run on anymore, because he's made his name as a running 5'8". If he can't run and create that way, he's not necessarily the ball-playing type either.
Now, I have a love-hate relationship with Matt Moylan. I've loved him since the day we signed him, and I think it was a brilliant signing. He carried us to a 2018 prelim in a team that, quite frankly, didn't deserve to be anywhere near where we finished up. He's very, very good last year. I'm talking very good, and he brought the best out of Nico Hines. But his time's done. And I'm happy to go on record as saying that. I apologise, young Matthew, if you're watching, which we know you are. Hopefully not. Huge fan. Love the bloke. If he retired tomorrow, I would be like, hey, brilliant, Shark legend. But Andrew Johns was good too, but you're not putting him out there this weekend, are you? Meanwhile, we got Braden Trindle, who's just too good for New South Wales Cup. It's a cheat code. Every game he plays with a proper week, Newtown just look like world beaters. This guy has to play first grade for Cronulla, because if he doesn't, someone's going to pinch him. Now, he signed a 2-year deal, I believe. We thought Boylan would play this year and then step back next year, and Traveller's the 18th man, play when called upon, and Trindle would step up. I don't know if that's still the plan. It has to be now. Braden Trindle is too good for New South Wales Cup, and he's a better player than Matt Moylan. He's a better kicking game, he's a better defender, he's faster, and his ball playing is better. What else as a halfback is there? Okay, you've got experience. Moylan has leaps and hundreds of games over Trindle, or 170, whatever it is. You just got to cut. You got to cut. See you later, Moylan. Travel with the squad because we need you there. You're a great bloke. Everyone loves him. Is all the reports we get, and everyone we talk to is first they say he's the most likable bloke in the world. Cool, keep him there. He's got a 2-year contract. It's not like he's sitting a bloke on 800k on the bench or in New South. You can't play him in New South Wales Cup. You can in the extended squad. So he's got to travel with the team every game. He can do all your media stuff. And look, if Trindle or Hines are below par, one of them's got the flu. You put Moylan in there, you're not going to lose much. But a team with Matt Moylan in 2023 cannot win the premiership, which is what it's about. We have a premiership window in Nico Hines, and those outside backs and those second rowers, you're blowing it. You are straight up blowing it. And where I used to get a lot of people defending Matt Moylan in the DMs and people I knew and randoms. Now it's all, what's he still doing there? I used to have an answer. Now I don't. Has to be Trindle. It has to be not this weekend against the Storm, but I believe we have a bye after or whenever the bye is, that's at the moment.
Yeah.
Trindle comes in straight away. But going back to the middles, 100% agreed. Our middles are, and again, Toby's a good mate of ours, and I love McInnes, and Finucane's signing was brilliant at the time. We had the best forward pack in the top 8 by a long, long way. You give me anyone's forward pack in the 8 and I'm swapping them. Like, just straight up. Except the second rowers.
Yeah.
Britton Nickera, Teague Wilden, love them.
Yeah.
Elite, brilliant. We tore Brisbane apart. Every time we went wide, we tore them to shreds this week. And Catewell and Ricky, they have brilliant outside, second rowers rather. But up the middle, it was men against boys. Payne Haas, Flegler and Carrigan, all blokes who played big minutes a couple of nights ago, absolutely rolled over our forwards. The only time we looked good was when Hamlin Ueli came on, and I thought Tom Hazen was very good, and I thought Jack Williams played exceptionally well. As soon as those guys came off and we threw our old hat Finucane back on, they just rolled over the top of us. Yeah. I'm glad it's coming from outside as well.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing because it's an area that the Sharks have had some strength, but they've also had some problems over the years. So someone like Fafita, who when he was on was great, but the number of injuries and other things that were hampering his game, the absence of McInnes and Rudolph at the moment,
feeling it,
are big, because if McInnes is there, you can play him at 13 and Finucane can come in as a starting front rower. And someone like Royce Hunt, who I think actually got some decent game about him, but he's definitely more that impact off the bench rather
small
than...
minutes.
Yeah, playing for 2025, if you've got to stretch him out to 45, 50, it's a bit of a different thing. So injuries at the moment play their part, but it's also the thing of, well, who else is out there? Is there anyone kind of in the Jets system that, is ready to come up? You talked about the guys who played well off the bench on Saturday night. If you're picking that middle forward rotation at the moment, who are you going with?
Hamlin Ueli has to start. He's our best front rower. And Toby Rudolph will come straight back. Toby is the best when he's at second pick.
Yep.
He's not our enforcer. He's just too nice a guy. Mm-hmm. He just doesn't have that in him. And as a player, I really rate Toby Rudolph, but as a number 2. So Ueli. Cam McInnes undisputedly has to start at 13. Like, it's just this Dale Finucane thing, I get it. He's earned every bit of respect as a bench player. Small minute player. He just hasn't got it anymore. And then Jesse Colquhoun is the answer in the Jet system. Tom Hazelton's big body. Tom Hazelton's 20-minute impact player. I don't know where you get the minutes from. Jack Williams got to be there. One thing I do think we have to move on from is Wade Graham. It's not working. It's just not working. At the moment, he has to play because we just don't have the bodies. But when McInnes comes back, when Toby comes back, they have to come back in. And I think it's Wade Graham's another one like Moylan that should travel with the squad. I know he's the last one left of the 2016. Again, I go back to the romance of it. But, I mean, he's already said he's going to the Catalans at the end of the year by all reports. And I love the bloke. Huge favourite of mine. But you got to move forward. So Jesse Colquhoun is the answer, but he's not a bloke who's going to come in and be Nelson Asafa Solomona either. So we really need to go to market for a prop. We've been saying it for a year and a half now. I think it's really noticeable because Brisbane have arguably the best middle in the game. They absolutely pants us on Friday night.
Yeah.
Now, the other big thing that I've seen this week in the Facebook group, thanks for the replies and stuff, guys. I really appreciate it. Good, bad, indifferent, whatever. We love all the discussion. Connor Tracy. We saw Sifa Talakai come back in and get pants by Tony Staggs for the second time now. I'm not willing to say that Connor Tracy would have done a better job because Tony Staggs, when he's on, there's no stopping him. You just can't get that guy on enough to play at the level he should be playing at. If you're Dragons, obviously you are, which sucks, are you more scared of Connor Tracy or Sifa Talakai?
Am I more scared in attack? It's Talakai. Am I more wary of in defence? It's probably Connor Tracy. Now, that's a really interesting thing to say because Connor Tracy came through your system as a half, has played wing, has played centre. Has he played fullback?
For the Jets, yeah,
for the Jets,
yeah.
But has played all over that back line. Hasn't actually really played in the halves for the Sharks at all.
No, what we recruited him as, yeah.
But I think as a top level like NRL player, he probably is a centre wing and he's reasonably solid in defence. Talakai, I just don't know where it is at the moment. But I'm also thinking maybe he's better set as a second rower sort of thing. Like, I know he's trimmed down a little bit, but you could easily bulk him up again and he'd be back into that second row sort of thing. Like, I know he moved to the centres and it was more because you needed someone in the centres.
We had to, yeah.
But maybe second row is actually his best spot.
Look, I'm starting to think... Talakai in the centres, as you said, attackingly, he's one of the top attacking centres in the game. He's got great hands for a bloke of that size, and he makes Ronaldo so much more. Like, when Tracy was in, Tracy played exceptionally well, but Ronaldo was stunted big time. But, you know, you get that. You get one or the other. They both can't be huge all the time, and I'm not negative on both. I'm a lot higher on Connor Tracy than Terry is, and I think that if he were to come back in, I would have no qualms with it. But in terms of, again, I go back to the premiership winning side, it's Talakai all day, because you need a guy that can break the game open, and he's done it so many times. People go back and say, oh, he had a negative game, this and this. Yeah, but it's been 6 weeks. He's played exceptionally well.
Yeah.
Connor Tracy has had some really good games for Cronulla. And again, I'm a big fan of Tracy. But again, in the semi-final, you're marking up against Campbell Graham. He looks at Connor Tracy and thinks, sweet. He looks at Talakai and thinks, might be in for a tough day. Yeah, he has his defensive deficiencies, and I still think he has to move back into the forwards. It just can't be this year.
Yeah.
Which brings that, what do you do with Talakai? I'm 100% saying in this off-season, eat and body build, because you're going straight back into the second row. And I'm saying to Teague Wooden, get in the weight room because he's shifting the lock.
Okay.
I think there's your three. He and Nickera are your three. I don't care where you put him. Nickera's not big enough to play lock, and he runs lines that a second rower does. That other two on the left, whether it's Wooden or Talakai, I don't care. One of them's got to play there, and one of them's got to move in the centre. Whether that's Teague playing, starting there and shifting, whatever. But those three have to make up those three spots. And I think whether it's Ero, Stone Street, Tracy or Ronaldo, I don't care at this stage. It has to be one of them. Yeah, just quietly, this Sunday afternoon, I actually thought it was a Saturday night game, which is great because I can't ruin my Saturday this week. I'm going to ruin my Sunday instead. The Sharks, I was going to say but definitely not, are travelling to Melbourne to play the Storm on the back of an absolute flogging at the hands of the Cowboys.
Did you tip that?
No. Anyone who says they did is a liar. I'd hate to be the team playing Melbourne coming off a flogging.
Yeah, I hate to be the team playing Melbourne in Melbourne at the best of times, but yeah, they would have copped an absolute dressing down from Bellamy after the game, and they will still be copping a dressing down from Bellamy through the week. And they will still probably be copping a dressing down from Bellamy as they ran out on Sunday before the game. Melbourne teams don't play 2 bad games in a row.
Mate, I'm not excited about this Sunday, put it this way. I'll front up and I'll be yay Sharks, but our trips to Melbourne haven't brought much joy in the past, and I don't know if we're in for it this week. Cronulla have to bounce back too, so I'm hoping that Fitzgibbons had the same week that they've had down south, but the draw hasn't been kind to us this weekend, mate.
Yeah, look, the first game this week, my mighty Tigers against your Gold Coast Titans, Dan. Up there on the Gold Coast, last time they played up there on the Gold Coast, of course, it was the worst game of rugby league that's ever recorded in history. Hopefully they've scratched it from the record books now and no one ever talks about it again, but dreadful game, 2 awful teams. My Tigers really unlucky last weekend. Absolutely robbed. Luke Brooks was pushed in the back, pushed across the dead ball line. A try was given. It wasn't a penalty, diving at the legs, despite what my Twitter says. Robbed. Your Titans, on the other hand, blew a comfortable, 30-point lead against the Rabbitohs and lost. So, look, I'm going to back the Tigers. I just think they're in better form. They've got better players. They've got, I'm not going to say they've got a better coach because both their coaches are dreadful, but yeah, look, Tigers are playing better footy at the moment. I think their defence is going to be able to hold out here on the Titans. I'm going to pick the Tigers 13+. Get their season back on track. Get them out of the bottom 4 here. Go on the Tigers.
It's a Friday evening in Canberra. Evidently there's a big event on down there for once. As Jared Croker plays his 300th game, they get the Warriors. What are your thoughts?
I thought there was something happening at Questacon.
Oh, there might be. Maybe they got a big headgear What we're saying is not a lot happens in Canberra, but a 300th game is something to celebrate.
Absolutely, and Jared Croker, we were talking before about Moylan and Graham being kind of some of the nicest guys in the game. From all reports, Jared Croker would be up there as well. Lovely guy. You probably looked 18 months ago and didn't think he was going to get to this mark.
Ooh, no, not even close.
He's come back and he's been playing really well this year.
Will he celebrate with a victory?
I think he will celebrate with a very high-scoring game.
Yeah, this is going to be fun, eh? Defence optional, please.
And against a Warriors side that's really starting to click. Sean Johnson's learned how to run again.
Found his feet, yeah.
And, I think it's going to be a really good game. I just don't think you can go past the home team for such a milestone game. I think maybe Raiders by 8.
They'll be up for this game. Ricky Stewart will absolutely have them firing in a big way. Yeah, I'm going to go. I'll say Canberra by a try or two. I think the Warriors will push them close, but ultimately I think the crowd down there will get them home.
Yeah, look, 8 o'clock Friday night, we've got the Manly Warringah Seagulls taking on the Dolphins. Going to be a cracker of a game. There's positions open now in both Origin teams, and there will be players that, obviously going to want to get out there and give it their best shot. I think the big thing for Manly is if they can get Tom Trbojevic cleared to play in this game. Now, I don't think he will be able to because it was a Category 1 in Origin, means the 11-day stand down. But, the Tigers, I know Tom Gilbert, huge opportunity for Ray Stone to come in and cement himself this year. He's been really good when he's had lots of minutes to play this year. Daly Cherry Evans, he was absolutely sublime in Origin. I think he's going to want to, obviously his position's not under threat, but he's going to want to continue his form in there and, make sure that he's playing good footy to wrap the series up for Queensland. But there's lots of spots open in the Queensland team and the New South Wales team. I think the Dolphins, on paper now, we're starting to see how bad their depth is. Their depth is being called upon for their depth. And I just think Manly are going to have way too much in here. Even if Turbo doesn't play, I think the Seagulls are going to have way too much for them. It'll be close for the first 50 minutes, and then Manly will run away with the game. Get on Ruben Garrick to score a bucket load of points in this game.
Saturday afternoon at one of their 23 stadiums, your Dragons host South Sydney. How you feeling? Not good?
Now, I will say this. We didn't talk about it before with the Dragons, but I thought their effort on Sunday night against the Panthers was very strong.
Very good.
Granted,
Can they back it up?
Can they back it up? Probably not. But there's good cohesion there. They'll be missing DeBellin after he got smacked in the head. This Bunny side, even with Trell out, they're hard to stop. And I don't think the Dragons are going to stop them on Saturday either. Absolutely
agreed. I think it's going to be a long day for those in Red V. And I think South just compound the misery, unfortunately. I say that with no joy. South by plenty.
Yeah, 5:30 on your Super Saturday afternoon. Brisbane Broncos returning to Brisbane. Obviously, they had to leave Queensland for a couple of days and came down, destroyed the Sharks, and then go back home to Brisbane probably for another 2 months. Against the Newcastle Knights, obviously we're talking about them. They're sounding out a new coach at the moment. Results are not going their way. Last start winners, but yeah, it's going to be a tough one here for Newcastle going up to Brisbane. I think the Broncos are, on fire at the moment. One of a few teams that haven't had the bye at the moment, and they're playing some good footy, sticking through that Origin period now. They don't have many injuries. I think this is going to be a disaster for Newcastle. They're going to go home with their tail between their legs, probably to a 30-point loss here as well. And again, as I've said, there's some positions open for Broncos players to get into the Queensland team. Expect a good performance, good showing from the Saifidis. There's some Origin spots there as well, but I think Brisbane are going to have way too much for them in this game here. As I said, it's going to be over by half-time. I'd be surprised if the Knights don't get an absolute hiding here.
Game of the round, Saturday evening, the Roosters and the Panthers. No Cleary, no Penrith, I hear some people saying. Don't say that. That's a ridiculous thing to say. How dare you? Can the Roosters get up, though? Because, geez, they were pushed a long way by the Bulldogs.
I don't know what's going on with this Roosters side this year, because when you look at it on paper, they should be playing a lot better. I also don't know whether the Manu at 6
Oh, it's not
things working.
He had like 4 passes as a 5'8" on the weekend.
Yeah. So I think Roosters are in this situation where they don't actually know what their best 13 is.
Yeah, fair.
But then again, I'm not sure whether Sam Walker's ready to come back up in either.
I think he might still be hurt.
Might still be injured. Okay.
You got to go with Walker.
Yeah. But with injuries, Jack Cogger on Sunday for the Panthers slotted in quite nicely.
Very good.
And as the Panthers had with Sean O'Sullivan in the past, they've got someone who can slot in when a half goes down. I think the Cogger-Luai partnership will go quite well. I don't think the Panthers will have much trouble on Saturday night.
No, I agree. Now, they're like $1.30 favourites, which if you'd said pre-season they would be away $1.30 favourites without Cleary against the Roosters, I'd have called you crazy. But they are there for a reason. I think Penrith go on to win this game very comfortably. I don't think there'll be as many points as we'll see earlier in the afternoon, but I think this will be about a quality game.
4 o'clock on your Sunday afternoon sees the Melbourne Storm hosting the Cronulla Sharks. 2 teams coming off in different losses. For Melbourne, they were absolutely belted by the Cowboys. Started off really poorly, got themselves back into the game level at halftime, and then just got run over the top. It looked like they were just waiting for someone to take control of that game and bring them back into it, but the Cowboys just kept, pulling another lever and running away from the Storm. It's not the Storm of old. They've been, pillaged. Teams have come and recruited very smart out of there, and we're seeing now that there's some project players, Bronson Garlick, Will Warbrick, these types of players that are going to be ready in a couple of years to contend again for a premiership when the reins are handed over to Jason Riles. The Sharks, they created plenty of opportunities and beat themselves against the Broncos. They had multiple line breaks where, the last pass just didn't stick, or a kick to Ronaldo Mulatalo, the bounce of the ball could have gone anyway. It didn't go Ronaldo's way. 2 plays later, the ball hits the deck straight into Corey Oates' arms, and the Broncos have scored. So I think, Cronulla are going to have to look to bounce back and right the wrongs of what went wrong last week. They shouldn't fear the Storm in terms of forward packs. Very even forward packs. Back line, I think, edges in Cronulla's favour. And then, you've got superstar halves in Cam Munster and Nico Hines. For Nico, he's, under pressure to get this New South Wales number 7 and run with it. I think he's going to need a big game here. If he can control this game and get Cronulla a win, it does 2 things. Takes the stigma of Cronulla not being able to beat a top 8 team. And also puts him in line to hold on to a Blues jersey and perhaps start at halfback. I think there's a few players that have leapfrogged him, at least in Freddie's eyes, but Freddie's an idiot. Expect a big performance from Nico here. In saying this, we picked the Sharks last week and they lost. I'm going to pick the Storm this week in a jinx. But I'm pretty confident in Cronulla going down there and getting a result.
And the first King's birthday clash between the Doggies and the Eels. Monday afternoon football. It's always appreciated for those of us that hate Mondays, which is everyone, let's face it. What are your thoughts on this game? Can the Doggies get up, or well-rested Parramatta going to come in and have their way?
I don't think it's actually going to have much to do. I think it's just the 2 teams really needing this win. The Dogs played pretty well to go so close against the Roosters.
Very well.
Parramatta's been up and down all season. I think this actually will probably rival the Roosters-Penrith game for actually being match of the round. I think this actually could be a decent game.
Yeah, okay.
I think... can you get a coin for me? I really don't know which way I'm going to go with this, but I think it'll be close either way.
I like this. You got to pick one.
I'm going to go the Dogs.
All right. Well, I'll go Parramatta just to be different. I also think they'll win. A lot of it, of course, the off-field stuff is going to come into this, I think, without a doubt. But even so, even if he doesn't play, I think Parramatta just going to be too good. It's funny, we didn't mention Mitch Moses earlier when we talked about Origin. I think Moses will be out to remind a few people what he's got. I think it'll be too little too late. But Parramatta by heaps. Hey everyone, thanks again for joining us this week. A special shout out, Stegs. Thank you so much for jumping in late notice. Appreciate your opinions. even if you support the Dragons. Big thanks as always to our sponsors, Top Sport and the Stubby Club, always there. Like, subscribe. Please leave some comments, good, bad or indifferent. I don't care, I'll be replying to them all. This is the Wednesday night, of course. We have the return of Rugby League Rumble Round 2. I'll be hosting. Keep an eye out for a link. We'll put it in the description. It's going to be a lot of fun. Jump on. If you're looking to come on, please hit me in the DMs on Twitter. I'm looking for people for some other clubs. That'll be continuing. And look, no Rugby League baby this week. Go Titans.
Go the Tigers, Dan.
Go Titans.
No, Dan, go the Tigers.
Go Titans.
Go banana.